What's up YouTube, this is Jakester2 here, back with another video. This is the console keybind video as promised, and I will be building in the background. This is live on Twitch right now, so I'm just going to do a live commentary and have my editor edit everything that needs to be fixed in the background. But I have, like I said, been playing keyboard and mouse for the past 4.5 months, somewhere around that range. And so if my building sucks and you're like, oh, this man's trash, I'll give you a few accolades, I guess, that could say, hey, he is pretty good, he knows what he's talking about. I played a competitive Call of Duty, have placed in multiple tournaments. I have got 20 kill games on this game. I've won keyboard scrims with the controller. I've done many things with the controller to prove I am a good console player. The only reason I did switch over to keyboard and mouse is because I feel like the keyboard and mouse does have a higher ceiling. Although you do see people that defy that, like Nick Merckx, Aiden, Issa, Ghost Issa. If you keep up with the competitive scene, you know these guys' names. And they are stud console players. But if you look at majority of the pro community, you'll see that they're mouse and keyboard. And it's because I do feel like there is a higher ceiling there. But anyway, let's get right into this. This is specifically for console players that do not have a scuff and do not play claw. So if you play claw or have a scuff, this is unfortunately not the video for you. But I will have more in the future for if you guys want that. We can put out videos for scuffs and claw players, because I used to play a scuff myself, so I could definitely get out a video, test some binds, and see what works, see what's the best option there. We can definitely get that done for you if you guys want that. But for now, let's go start going over the actual keybinds I use for a regular controller. So we got this is just the sensitivities and stuff, if you guys wanted to copy them. The X is 0.75, the Y is 0.7. And the reason I go with this is because I personally feel like the sweet spot is in between 7 and 8. Anything lower than 7, I think is too low. Personally, I think it's way too low for your building, your editing, all that. I just think it's too low. 8, you can go above 8, but I personally feel like it's not as clean. And there are people that excel at it, but it just doesn't seem to be as clean sometimes. Then we got what the heck? Oh yeah, targeting sense 2.5, scope sense 2.5. The reason I have that is because if you have that a bit higher, you can overcorrect and mess up on your aim sometimes. So I tend to keep that a little bit lower. Then we got sprint by default. I'll go over why that's important to have on a little bit later. We have build immediately, and then the whole time doesn't really matter. Alright, now let's go over to the keybinds. Alright, the biggest changes will be your L1 is edit, and then your L3 is jump. And I'll explain more in depth why that is super important later in the video. And then you have to switch your X to previous weapon, because your jump was there and you move that to L3, and the reason why your previous weapon is there is because your L1 is edit, so you have to move that down to X. It seems weird and you will definitely be confused by it at first, but I'll give you tips how to practice that and how to practice all this stuff later on in the video. I'm just going to go through these really quick. Edit still is L1, so that is where the roof piece was, so you're going to have to move that down to X. And then, or you can move it to R3, but I found that moving it to R3 wasn't as comfortable. And especially for people that use jump as X, it'll be pretty a much easier transition to put at the X button. And then L3 obviously still stays jump, and everything else is pretty much the same. L1 confirm. I guess you could switch that however you want if you wanted to. I would say you should use L1 as that confirm button as well. Alright, so here's why jump is so important to have at L3, and I think it is the best change you could possibly make as a console player that does not play Scuff or doesn't play Claw. Here's why. So when you play Claw or you play with a Scuff, you have paddles on the back that you just click to jump, so you keep your finger on the right analog. That is why they actually made Scuffs, is so that you could aim while you're jumping. So with L3 being your jump button, you still have the opportunity to do that. If you use X, you have to take your finger off that jump stick, so it would look more like this. It would be like a jump, then turn. Jump, then turn. And then you can obviously overcorrect if you're just jumping, then turning. But if you're jumping and moving it at the same time, you can kind of just stay on par with, say this is the enemy, you can kind of just stay on par with them the whole time. But if you're jumping, then moving, or jumping, then moving, it can mess you up. So with L3, you get to keep your finger on that right analog, so you can keep your aim as you're jumping, which makes it a very good jump button. It helps your accuracy, elusiveness in fights. Say you're in a sub fight and you're jumping around, like, you can move your analog. People that don't have this keybind and don't play with the Scuff or Claw, they can't do this. So like while you're jumping and stuff, your aim can be still accurate. Obviously my aim sucks because I haven't played on console in, like I said, 4.5 months. So my aim's pretty trash, but once you get this down, you'll be destroying kids in gunfights like that. So that is why L3 is so important to make as your L3. If you don't take anything from this custom keybind video, take L3 as your jump, trust me. And then now let me go over why L1 is the best edit button in my opinion, and that is because if you have it at circle, for the same reason, if you have it at circle, you have to take your finger off the right analog. So you cannot move the right analog for that split second. This is a split second difference, but it is huge. So if you have to take your hand to the circle, you click circle, then go. Circle, then go. It's my switch mode, so my wall will come up, but if it's your edit, you'll click circle, then go. If you have L1, it's instant, boom, over, straight over. Like you can go with your L1 automatically. There's no like break. If you do this, it's a break, and then you gotta move it. Boom, then move. Boom, then move. Boom, then move. Instead, L1 automatic. So that's why my L1 is that. Now I'm going to give you some tips on how you can practice these keybinds, because they are a lot different from, especially if you do the L3, like that's a lot different. It's a huge change for a player to make. The way I practice this, I'll just go step by step. So L3, the jump button. The way to practice this would be, in my opinion, to do 90s and just build in playground. Build in playground in general. That will help you with that side of things, I think. And then L1, same thing. I'm gonna give you the playground. I think the creative, playground or creative, it don't matter. Creative probably because you get unlimited mats. But all these things, I think, if you can spend an hour a day here in the playground, or even 45 minutes, you're gonna be getting this, at least the building side of things down. Here's where I think the playground will not help you, and that is the switching weapons. This did take me a little bit to get used to, because you can only get it done in real games, because when you actually get in a gunfight and like stuff starts hitting the fan, that's when you start freaking out. You start clicking your old buttons to switch weapons and stuff, and it gets confusing. So the best way to practice these would be to actually just go in games and get them down, like, get your buttons down in game. Best way. And here you can switch them all you want, but it's just like, it's not the same as when you're in a gunfight and you really have to like pump and switch to a sub. Like, you have to have that muscle memory, and that's the best way to do it. It's not in here. And now to what was my last final piece. Editing. Here's the best way to practice your edits. Right here, in my opinion, this is what all the pros do. This is what a lot of people do to practice their edits, and then you just edit down and just, you've probably seen this in Mongrel courses, and this is what all the pros do to practice their edits. Alright, but I'm scrubbed now, so yeah, I'll stop that. And then so now the last piece would be the pyramid, because that is the last thing you would have to change. Here's a great way to practice the pyramid, is to edit those, because that gives you kind of like a 2-for-1. You get to practice your edits and you get to practice placing that pyramid. And then another way here's one of the key ways I practice putting my pyramids, because this will be a key play when you're in game, is to be pyramiding people. So you can kind of practice your own pyramid on your own time if you just go boom. And then here's how you continue on with it. You edit out both ways, build one ramp higher, and then you kind of just restart the process, just going right back through this. Ready? Just like this. And then boom. And literally you just keep restarting the process until you reach max height. And that's how you can practice your pyramid, because you want to be able to do that in mid-fight. Just be able to get your pyramid out. And it, like I said, just helps with the muscle memory. Boom. Alright, that actually does wrap up my keybinds video. I hope you all try these keybinds out, and yeah, thank you. Peace out.